We'll get it on the 4th try. So our topic today is strategies around listings, and while we're waiting for Zach and Megan, I actually have something I want to talk to you guys about. So we haven't had to do feedback for 2 years, right? Because everything's going under contract so fast. What are everybody's feedback processes? Because I've had that question several times this week, because now everyone's like, okay, our listings are starting to sit.
We use a platform called ProAgent Solutions. So anytime we have a new listing, we sync it. Our lockbox is synced with the MLS, the property in the MLS. And then anytime the lockbox is opened, it automatically sends an email to the agent that opened it requesting feedback. If they don't submit it, then it continues to remind them, I think 3 additional times. And each time, whether or not somebody gives feedback the very first time or they just didn't answer, it also lets the client know. So that way they know that we're attempting to get the feedback. And it's sometimes people don't like hearing things because you're their agent and you're just saying it and you don't know. But sometimes having that direct input from another agent is kind of like, oh, I guess what you are saying is true, or maybe my house does smell a little bit, or maybe it is overpriced, or whatever the case. But that's one of the ways we get feedback.
Are your agents pretty good in your area about giving the feedback, or do you have to chase any of it down?
It's kind of hit and miss. It's nice with this program that it kind of helps chase it down for us. We also have an email template that we'll manually send out if we don't hear from them within that, and just kind of phrase it differently of like, here is the seller's disclosure and here are a few other items of value related to the property. Now, do you have anything to tell us, versus just the system asking? And usually they'll reply.
Zach, while I was waiting for you to jump on, I just put the group out. Now that listings are starting to sit, I've had questions about people's feedback processes this week, so I thought we'd talk about them for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been getting some feedback. I mean, now that buyers are kind of having a little bit of a choice of what home to purchase, if we don't have new carpet, or if we had one home that needed touch-up paint because kids got after the wall, and then also carpet stains, like if we don't, a lot of the feedback that we received once I chased it down was the condition of the home at that price. So I'm just seeing for that in the market shift, of homes needing to be in good condition, move-in ready to get top dollar. And once we made those 2 repairs, we got multiple offers.
Wow, you're already seeing that, Hannah, or the condition is coming into play.
Yep. I mean, and this home was priced, at the top, and they're like, well, in order to pay that, we want all new carpet because it was nasty. It was stained, with animals and things. And, touch-up paint was badly needed. And that's a lot of people didn't want to even bother to make those little minor repairs. They moved on to another home. So, but yeah, I mean, we use Showing Time. It's through our MLS, and yeah, it follows up. We have a reminder that goes out, but me and the VA will chase down. If we have an agent or 2 circling, we'll just, we'll kind of keep them in the loop saying, hey, there's a few people circling, we try to stay on it and be more of like the customer service side for our clients, and then also for co-op agents. And then for our buyer agents on the team, and I'm like, hey, let's be the agents that people like are so excited that we're showing their homes. Let's be up on it on feedback within 24 hours, give at least some detail, and not just say like client not interested, like give some detail of why the client's not interested. So
what questions are you guys asking in your feedback? And that goes to the whole group. Like, what feedback questions do you ask?
I have a template that they kind of fill out through Showing Time, and it will, prompt them, is your client interested? Yes, no, and then it's like, is this home overpriced? Yes, no. And I always ask, if they say very vague answers, I'm like, hey, why is your client not interested? At what price do you think the home would sell? Or your client would come back and write an offer. Hey, the house has too many updates. Okay, great. What updates would you like to see? In order to get an offer for, to move on to write an offer on this home. And that'll help once our client sees that multiple times of like, oh, wow, we need to clean up, we need to replace these boards on the back deck or replace that carpet. The showings will tell us immediately. And so it's easier ask once they've been seeing that feedback from other agents. So.
Yeah, like what Aslan was saying.
Mhm.
Is anybody else ask any other questions other than some of the questions Hannah shared?
We straight out ask, like, are there any features that you think need updated or that we can improve upon, and whatnot, just because, like Hannah was saying, we want to be able to tell the client, do your carpet or whatnot. That's going to make a huge difference.
Our questions are, is your customer interested in the property? What's the biggest positive? What's the biggest negative? What price would you buy this house? What price range is your buyer looking in? How many homes have you seen? Have they seen this far? What would make this home perfect for your buyers? Any other comments and recommendations?
And Jess, do you gather that through showing time also?
I do, yes.
And if they don't give feedback, do you guys call them or do you just let it go?
Well, like we discussed today, we haven't done it in a while. So the new plan that I wrote up and sent to our cyberbacker is he's going to ask for it daily. And then we're going to download the showing time report and send it to the agent Monday morning. And I just asked Hannah for her template email so that our agent can send the feedback and the information to the client on Monday mornings.
The other thing that Jess and I talked about today, which is again starting to come back up and be a change in our process, is who sends out like a weekly update email to their sellers, and what's in that? Aslan, what's in yours?
Stand by. Let me pull it up exactly what it is.
Yeah, we usually try to do like seller calls, for active homes. If they've been on the market longer than 2 weeks, we make those on like Thursday and Fridays of just like, hey, we followed up, on feedback from this week and the past weekend. Here's how many views we've seen on Zillow, Realtor.com, the MLS. And so I just throw those reports all into like one email, CC the client on it, and then also our agent, usually by like Thursday morning or Friday. And so then they can review that in their call, the agent calling the seller. But usually, we harp big time on at the listing appointment. If we have received 8 to 10 showings and 0 offers, it's price, condition, presentation. Well, we've hit presentation, it's price or condition, so then it's just a price reduction or we got to change the condition of some way, some shape or form.
Nice. We haven't had these conversations in so long.
I know it's hard. We were talking about this yesterday after my call with Megan of how it's kind of like coming into the shifting market from what it was before COVID, of homes sitting on the market up to, I think our average days on market 2018 and 19 were like, for our team 16, but for the MLS like 45. And so I'm like, oh wow, I've got to get back into that mindset of what it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. I've happened to babysit some sellers for a little while and it's not fun. So, changing our our wording a little bit at the listing presentation that, okay, you'll be meeting Angie, our TC, very soon, you know, and it'll be getting passed over to her. It's not quite that much, you know, that quick anymore.
Yeah. So Aslan, what were you gonna share was on yours?
So our weekly email, we kind of give a few of the stats saying, here's where we're at. Like, here's a link to view your current listing. Here's how many showings we got this week. Here's what the total of, you know, you being on the market we've had. And here's where you're at current days on market. And then we kind of say, and here's what we're doing this week to try to help it. So we kind of have different things to input depending on which week the market's sitting at, that it's on the market at. And, you know, anything from just letting them know we're going to run paid advertisements for your listing, or we're going to tweak the listing description. We're going to change the order of your photos on the MLS. Just we're scheduling another open house. Here's when it's going to be. Just kind of throughout the different weeks, throwing in those items in case it does sit for a while. And then at the end, we kind of just remind them like, oh, if we have anything outstanding from you, you know, we're missing a seller's disclosure or whatnot, like as a reminder, we still need this.
One of the ones I heard this week too, which I really liked, is they go into the MLS and they're able to look on their MLS how many people have liked their house, right? So they've put in there, you know, this many people have liked your house. So it shows that things are happening behind the scenes, even though they may not be feeling it. Okay, I totally took us off topic, kind of off topic for 20 minutes. So Zach, do you want to bring us back on topic?
So going back into it, I think it's a great opening, right? Because it is important. This call really is looking at where were we at prior to COVID, and what have we forgotten, right? And what does that look like going forward that we need to instill and bring back to it? And I think the feedback's part of it. I think production and focusing in on how do we close the gap and identify the problems is really important moving forward. And that's some of it, getting the feedback so we can direct our sellers. It's also all about listings, right? Like, how do we get those? So our topic today was around production, how, and primarily really focusing in on how are we getting listings, what's changing in our tactics to be able to help and support sellers. So opening question to do that. First off, how many of us are behind in our listing goal? Show of hands. 1, 2. Okay. What I can see, what do you see, Paul? Looked like majority.
Yep.
Everybody.
So who wants to get us started? Who wants to get us started in opening up? What conversations are your teams having around closing the listing gap heading into the second quarter?
For us, it's more intentional lead gen versus just luck of what falls in our lap. And which is, again, very elementary, but yeah, just being more intentional on lead gen, and then on our 26 or 36 touch, whatever everybody has a little bit of a different one, but
in your mind, just to make sure I'm on the same page, what does being more intentional look like?
like actually time blocking it and holding each person accountable to doing that, building the database and doing the lead generation, and actually tracking that, which just hasn't been done with our team, unfortunately.
So intentionality to you is just that consistency around actually holding the space and then completing lead gen. Who else? What other conversations are we having?
Well, our team tried out an ISA, a couple ISA people this at the beginning of the year, and we've realized it hasn't really worked for us. And being I'm in the Austin, Texas market, and so this past couple of years, it hasn't really been a struggle to get clients, which is a good thing. But now with this shift, our conversations are we're removing our ISA team. We haven't seen a return on investment, and we're more heavily. A lot of our people come from our network, our spheres, past clients. We don't really focus on call time, but the conversation is now, hey, we need 13 listings a week in order to be on track for our goal. You actually need to pick up the phone and call people and just be intentional about it, because we're all in this together, but like, you actually need to do this. It's not going to fall into your lap like it previously has been.
We've never really, I mean, during COVID, it was a big thing for us to continually follow up with our database and stuff like that. And I think it's really shown over the past year, because our top sources are Sphere, Repeat, and Referral. And the referrals are all from database. For the most part, we're really honing in on Zillow Flex. I know that Paula and I have been really talking about Zillow Flex, coming up with a game plan on that. But we just had the conversation today, and I told him, I said, we really need to challenge our agents to be following up with their database quarterly. Jamie's really, one of my rainmakers is really good about that. And two of my other agents are really good, and they're the top agents in the team. So it just shows, if you have a database, you work it often, every quarter, they will come. And y'all are freaking me out because my house hits the market tomorrow, and all these like, oh, it's slow. And I'm like, oh my God. But yes, so, I mean, it's just being intentional. I think that's the best thing, and being honest with the clients and letting them know, hey, it's a tough market, but like, it's time to sell. Don't be scared of the market. We're here for you.
It'll be interesting, Christy, to see what your perspective is from the seller side.
I never want to do this again. There's been more tears shed this week, but I will definitely keep you updated.
So what other conversations are we having? So I've heard intentionality around lead gen, right? Being specific with that, working the sphere, the database. What else?
Can I give a little motivational insight with your permission, guys? This is for you, Christy. So when you think about a shifting market, like, let's just think about the economic theory for a second. So we're taking the market from one extreme to the other. There's not a straight line that connects the two. It's actually a curve. It's a pendulum swing, right? So as we go from one extreme market to another, that's what we basically call a shift in real estate. Well, to get there, we go through what is actually, by definition in our own industry, the best market. So I'm watching right now across the country, the pendulum swing at different rates. For some of you, you're going to be in that best market for a little while. Like, you might have a couple months there. Some of you guys are going to be there for a couple of weeks. Like, it's swinging that quickly. The shifting market is actually an incredible opportunity to have the best months of your salespeople's lives. Their lives. They should be gearing up to do that right now. And those months are going to carry them through once we're over on the shifted market side, and it's a little harder to get deals to the closing table. So we are in the sweet spot. Like, we're having a lot of conversation about what it's like to be in a shifted market, but the truth is we're in a shifting market, which means we are in the golden era of our industry. You don't get to be there long, ever. That's like the definition, pendulum swings. So you should be having the opportunity to pack in the listings, get your buyers who've not been able to get a property under contract, and we should be making hay while the sun shines, right? So Christy, this is the time. Like, if you've got sellers who have been like, I don't know, those people are coming to the market. We're seeing that in the data. This is not just like, I think they might be there. Like, listing inventory is stacking up. More people are like, crap, I'm gonna miss this whole thing. I got to take my listing to the market. I've been on the fence. I got to get in there now. We should be absolutely crushing it. We need to be coaching our agents to go have the best months of their career right now, because it is padding their income for what might be a couple of really tough months. Now, the market's not going to stay like shifted forever, right? And the truth is, these two markets each have their own issues, and we learn to be really good no matter which side they are. We just have to kind of shift our tactics. But the shifting market is the sweet spot. So right now, go just sell a crap ton of houses. Go take a ton of listings. Go get your buyers under contract. You are in the sweet spot. You don't get to be there long.
I think we've had 7 listings come across just this week. Our board is full of preparing listings for MLS. Buyers are really like, they're not waiting. I mean, the sellers are not waiting. They're like, we gotta go now. We've got to go now. But, and again, everything that we've had come across this week, all but 2 have been from our Sphere repeat or database.
Go get it done, Christy. Best
We're
months of your
trying.
team's history should be happening right now.
Yeah.
Your house too.
So true. I knew one of us were going to break and jump in. I was holding back. I'm surprised Paula didn't, but we let Megan jump in and take it. Thoughts around that? My thought, and Megan, I love that, because my thought always goes back to shift and tactic 4, find them motivated. And I think the first couple of paragraphs, oh yeah, Paula's got it, is always underestimated. And maybe I'll take some flack for this, but here's my thought when you look at it and you read through and you see what's happening. For sure, shift always tells us a shifting market is just a shift in motivations. And if you ask me, the intentionality behind lead gen is great. And yet the opening question I have for my team and what I would look at is, well, who are we calling? I'll be honest, a lot of the ads marketing that I'm receiving is geared towards a motivation that no longer exists. Hear me out. Motivation. Well, let's do it this way. What if you look back at the beginning of the year, all the way up to even like a couple months ago, what were some motivating factors for someone to buy or sell? Let's just open it up, shout out some motivating factors that I would have either bought or sold.
Do it before the interest rates go up.
Perfect. So motivating factor, low interest rates. What else?
Ton of equity in your home.
What'd you say? Equity went up? Okay, equity. So making an equity play. So we got low interest rates, we got equity play. What else?
Taking advantage of the market.
Taking advantage of the market. How so?
Most people that we came across, they were just like, this is the best time I can buy. Like, I'm going to go rent for a little bit and go ahead and sell now while the prices are high because I think they're going to go down, is what people always said to us.
Yeah, we all seen that, right? Like, okay, I like it. So high prices creates the equity in the house. We got low interest rates. What else?
Employment rate, or unemployment rate, whichever way you want to look at that, very low. So most people have income stream or a income stream that they can afford a home now, possibly.
Yeah, nailed it. What else? We're missing some basics. What are some motivating factors?
People still need a place to live. If you're starting a family or your family is expanding or downsizing.
Yeah, family downsizing, either increasing, decreasing. What does that look like? So downsizing when it comes to the family. What else? How about retirement, death, divorce, marriage, right? All of those things. So now think about the market we're heading into. Of that list that you just gave me, how many of those motivating factors go away? Which ones go away? Which ones do not exist anymore? Or if they do, a very small percentage.
Well, I think some of them just shift, right? Like interest rates. Okay, it's not a good thing anymore. It's a bad thing. Or, affordability is not a good thing. It's a bad thing. But the ones you mentioned are pretty constant. Those don't really adjust, or actually, if anything, they go up. Like divorce rates probably go up when the economy is not so hot. I don't know factually if that's true or not, but I would assume so. Stressors and whatnot.
Yeah.
Divorce rates go up when job or unemployment. These are all speculative.
Yeah. No, I mean, you nailed it. And I want to open it up for conversation and thought, right? But I want you to think about if your marketing dialogue and conversation is still around trying to explain interest rates, if the motivation for me to buy or sell was interest rates were low, you're missing me in this conversation because you're not going to motivate me. It is always a great time to buy or sell, depending on what your motivation is, which we call goals. If your goal is to get low interest rate, it may not be the best time to buy for you. And yet, we know retirements happen, death happens, divorce happen, job changes happen, layoffs happen, and therefore I could care less what the interest rates are. I need to solve a problem, right? I mean, I care what the interest rates are, but there's nothing I can do about it. If I need to downside or I need to move, or if Austin calls and says, hey, I got a job for you in Austin and I accept it, despite the market, I have to do that. So my question, and when you look at moving forward around this production too, is not only looking at, yeah, we need to lead gen more consistently, but what is the message that we're delivering and who are we delivering it to? Because some of those motivating factors that our marketing and conversations are alluding to are not really purposeful or exist in this market because of the way that it shifted, like Megan said.
If I see another ad explaining how interest rates are still lower than they were in the 80s, I might punch something. I'm like, explain to a first-time home buyer how they're actually super lucky because in the 80s interest rates were higher. Like, nobody cares. This is a terrible marketing ploy. Just stop it. Stop it.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, and we were talking about like problems and symptoms and identifying those from The Road Less Stupid. And what's funny is the reality of the problems we were trying to solve before is people didn't have problems. How we were winning listings was literally, we just need to convince them that, hey, we can sell your house for more money than you could. But the reality of it is anyone could throw something up on Zillow and it probably would get a couple of showings and sell. Now we're running into an area where I'd look at it and go, are you set up and prepared in a way to help people who are motivated to buy or sell in this market? Meaning, if I am released from my job and I need to move and find one, are we prepared with urgency to provide my options to look at temporary housing? Like, what is our network to support that? Paul, what would you add? Because you had, I seen you had shift pulled up. What was your thoughts?
No, I was going right where you went. Like you read my mind. Yeah. Christy, why are you moving?
After I move, I will have no debt. So all my debt will be paid off except for one of my cars. That's why my kids are here. Because the photographer's at my house right now. But yeah, after that, we will not have any debt. We've always wanted a one-level house. We thought we would retire in the house that we were in. However, our next house will be our final house because I don't like to move, but we will move to our retirement. I have 3 kids. One's going to college next year, and I have 2 other ones that once they are out of middle school and high school, I'm gone. I'm headed to the lake. You know, one thing you said a few minutes ago, like, what are we doing for our sellers on the houses that we get under contract? We're really reaching out to some of our investors, and we're asking about doing some rent backs for them, you know, until they can find something. And we've had several investors say, yes, I want that house. Let's do a rent back. They have a full year to find a house, and they're literally renting, you know, just renting it back to the seller right now. But, you know, it takes the pressure off of them. I'm buying my best friend's house. I have no pressure about finding a house. I have no pressure on any of that. We have a house already, so that has taken a lot off of it. But just knowing that we have somewhere to go, and I'm not fighting for it, has been really nice. And I think that a lot of our sellers are really liking the fact that we're using investors to do that type of stuff.
I would observe that I think probably 90% of teams, this is not necessarily true for the solo agent, but 90% of teams actually have all of the missing listings already in your CRM, and we've lost them through poor systems of lead conversion. So in a you know, coming out of 2 years where we could cherry pick, or we could just like scoop the cream off the top of everything, and everybody could make the money they wanted to make doing that. Average sales prices were up, commissions were higher. But in a shifted market where we're headed, we really have the business in our CRM. We just have to improve our systems of lead conversion so that we don't just have people floating around in there without any conversion tactics in play for those people.
Something that our buyers agents have done, they've reached out to, if there's a specific area that the sellers are looking for, or buyers are looking for to get in. I mean, we've sold numerous transactions probably in that one area, and they've reached out to them, asking them if they're interested in selling, or if any of their neighbors. And we found some houses. I guess we probably found maybe 10 sales out of just doing that as well. But we've also gotten the listing plus the buy side plus their buy side. So it's really turned into multiple transactions for us.
So I've been through a couple shifted markets, and it's always back to the basics. Because when you're in that market that you know how to operate really well, it's exactly what Megan said, you're skimming the cream off the top, right? And when you start to hit that shifting market, it's like everybody needs to go back to the basics. It's not rocket science, and it's not fun and shiny.
I think sometimes the obstacle there, y'all tell me if I'm wrong, but as we think we're coming out of like good times, we think we created that and we underestimate how much the market did. And so we think we're more skilled than we are. And when we head back into a skills-based market, the reason we don't retain or grow market share is because we refuse to accept the fact that we need to go back to improving our skills. Like, we didn't actually earn those listings in that market. We just rode the wave of the market. And it wasn't that we're so incredible that we're untouchable. It's that the market was great. And when we shift back the other side into a skills-based market, there's a lot of pride that prevents us from actually just being good at the basics, like Paul said.
All ships rise in high tide. I don't know if you've seen this. I really see it come up in the average sales price. That's where you'll see it out a lot too. Because a good opening question is, did the market increase our average sales price, or did we create that? You create that by farming new areas. Some of us built plans based off the same farming neighborhoods we've been at and said we had a price increase and we've increased our average sales price, and we have not. The market has. And it kind of inflated it, which is exactly what Megan's saying, but that's the direct area where I would go and look first and go, where have we maybe assumed average sales price went up and it was really only inflated by the market, temporary.
Yeah. Did I increase my skills that I went from an average price of 500,000 to over $1 million, right? That's a skill level change. Or my market changed from the average price being 500,000 and went to 800,000. Did I just go from 500 to 800? I think we've all seen that with brand new agents that come on our team, right? Their price point, their first year is like bottom of the barrel. And then by the time they hit their second year, they kind of get into that average price point.
I mean, our average sales price throughout this whole entire year up until like the last month has been like 50,000 lower than last year. Well, that's because we were just chasing everything, like only taking the hot business and doing no follow-up. And I mean, our business has always been 50-50 buyers and sellers every single year since I've been on our team for over 6 years. And it's like 70-30, 70% buyers, 30% listings. You know, we color code and it's all blue on our GCI sheet of all buyers. And that price range, you know, we usually don't take much under 100,000, and we've done a few, you know, investment properties that our team has found, and a lot of $100,000. Usually it's, you know, our average sales price right now is like 275. But earlier this year it was like 230, 240. We're slowly creeping, you know, up higher now that we've focused on Mets, Sphere, and kind of kicked back in a little bit into follow up with people we know. You know, and client events, that's helped to get our average sales price up for sure. But yeah, just taking what's hot and what's right in front of you in the sign calls, it's definitely a lot lower average sales price.
The money's in the follow-up, which circles back to us also, right? Because the follow-up isn't just about the agents.
Who here is starting to position yourself to acquire databases of agents or teams who exit the industry during the shift? Strong play. look to Aslan if you're thinking about how you could get some more listings. Acquiring, exiting agents' databases is a strong move.
So what are y'all having the conversations or like putting that out there? Or like how do you even begin? Of like,
So
hey, I'll buy your database.
So we've always had the plan, and I say kind of because we haven't actually put it into motion yet, but we've had talks about this for, I mean, a couple years, some pre-COVID. It was always a, hey, one day we're going to get this going and we're going to do this, and kind of like a retired agent program, like, oh, I'm retiring, and it's like, hey, like, yes, we'll pay you a referral fee for, we'll take your database and we'll take care of you. We'll pay a referral fee, we'll do this and that, but we haven't gotten around to it. It's something that we've kind of started talking about again, but we haven't really started any actionable items or kind of figuring who should it be. But we
that
are at least
definitely-
thinking about it.
Yeah, that intrigues me. Who has actually done it, and like how do you price that? I mean, you said referral fee. Is that for a certain period of time? Like what is the process on that? Maybe Megan, since you brought up the question, do you have insight on that too?
Yeah, Paula's team has done a golden handoff. Holzel Homes is another one where they've actually acquired databases through referrals for X number of years. I think 2 is the longest one they've ever done, but Holzel Homes would be a great mastermind partner if you guys are thinking of doing that. They're in the Airtable, the DOA database. There are no rules, right? So if you could acquire a database and do it for X dollars, that's cash expense. If you can acquire a database for $0 and do it through cost of sale, that's another way to structure that so that you have no upfront loss. The questions you'd want to ask, right, are how many people are in there and at what rate do they turn over? So if it's a 100-person database and on average they get 10 deals per year out of it, you've got a 10% turn rate. That's pretty good purchase. If your team turns over your database at 15% and they've got a 100-person team that's turning over not at all, you still might take that gamble on a cost of sale on a referral base because there's no proven turn rate. And the gamble is you could apply your 36 touch to turn it over at 15% and get 15 deals out of it. There's no guarantee because they're not doing it. So you don't know how warm or cold that database is. So there's really no like one right way. There's just like, what are you looking at purchasing? What revenue is that database producing? And then what are you willing to do to get it if you've got a retiring and or an exiting agent?
Megan, is the group that you mentioned, are they out of Wisconsin?
Mm-mm.
There's a group who I was in a different mastermind at one point, and they talked about how they have like an official system for it. And they partnered with an agent who was going to get out of the business, but they started partnering prior to them and kind of did like a co-branding like a year before the agent retired. So that way her database would become familiar with them and it wouldn't just be like, hey, I'm now working with these random strangers.
Which is a great strategy if they've already got a turn rate, right? So if they're turning it over at 10%, the co-brand I've seen work really well because now it's just a shift in mind share. And then you can slowly cross the co-branding over to your team's branding. So again, there's no like one way. There's just like, what is the database? What's the revenue coming out of that database? What's your track record at creating revenue from a database? And what are you able to work out from an expense or cost of sale structure? Not only, this is another opportunity of the shift, not only databases, what TC companies might you be lining cash up to purchase? What ISA conversion companies might you be lining up to acquire? What teams might be great sales leaders, but terrible cash managers that you could bring into your team during a challenging market? How are you aligning the cash on hand you have to expand your empire? when things get hard for other people who don't have cash.
You brought up, Megan, the topic I wanted to dive into, which was people, right? Here's the next thing we'll see in a shifted market. Now there's never a better time to attend career visioning. Most of us have been hunting for talent. It's been challenging, right? We've all heard the calls, we've all experienced it. It's been tough. And now we're going to see an influx of newer agents and seasoned agents who are just tired. They don't want to deal with the market. They're scared. They bought into the news media, and they're going to want to join the team. It's going to be your team, and you're going to want to make the desperate decision of, I've been looking, I found Zach, I'm bringing him on. Don't do it. I will get on my knees, beg, don't do it. Right? If you have the opportunity to take career visioning, do it. If you haven't in a while, it's a time to refresh, because as Megan said, not only are you leveraging cash and the people, you will have an opportunity to expand your team through just agents looking, right? Like suddenly now they're going to be picking up the phone and answering your call and recruiting call and entertain that meeting. Choose wisely, because we see it all the time. We start running into retention issues 4 to 6 months from now, right? Because everyone makes it through the holidays, so we give them the credit and we're like, oh, they went through training and then we went through the holidays, and then we go into business planning and we forget about them. January, February comes around and suddenly we're like, our team's not producing. I don't think we got the right team to go forward.
With career visioning, is that, so I know there's live ones and virtual ones. Is that one you would recommend doing live instead of virtual?
I think it's your learning style. I mean, I don't know, I took it digital, but mind you, there was like a good 3-year gap from when I took it live, but then I went through it digital, but I found value in the digital one. My personal recommendation, I would at least make sure that it is a KWU instructor putting it on. I'm not knocking the others because I'm sure they would do great. I just know that KWU at least follows a model that they've been trained to teach it to.
Well, and sometimes they'll advertise for like a half a day CV success through others, 30, 60, 90. No. It's like a day and a half to 2 full days of a class. You cannot put down that information within 3 to 4 hours. So you can do like a quick run through of like, here's the basics, but like the true process, it's like a day and a half to 2 day full class for my in-person classes. So just an FYI.
And I agree with Zach. I think it depends on your learning style. Sitting there for 2 days digitally for me is really hard. Like, I'm much better in person when it's that long, but if it's for half a day, I'm good, right? I just know with me, if you put me there for 2 days, I will like lose concentration about halfway through.
I've already seen a few agents circling in our office asking about if they can be on the team. You know, knowing that there's a shift coming, they're terrified. They've not done any type of lead generation. They just gotten lucky. And now they don't know how to prospect, what source of business to go after. And they know that we have business in a massive database. So we have kept that in mind. And
Remember, if you don't want them, you might want their database.
Yes, I wrote that down.
Yeah.
And then back to the database, we had an agent move from Little Rock to Denver, Colorado a few years ago. And we gave him a year. We took over his database and I told him anything we convert, a 25% referral fee. And we marketed to, then after a year, they came into our full database, and I'll give him gift cards to just say like, thank you. And, you know, he was like, I don't want to make the cold handoff. here's my Dotloop account. Go to their closing info sheets and find their information, and good luck. And it paid off, for sure. Because a few years ago we needed, a little bit extra, and that, for me, a few days worth of work paid off greatly. Added about 200 more people to our net database. So people that move out of state, and he's an agent out in Colorado, but he just left it cold and dry here. So don't forget about those people that have to move.
And sometimes they just want to know somebody's going to take care of their database,
Yes.
right?
That's what, yeah, he was very like hands-on type person, full personality. People worked with him only because they're like, I want to go get drinks with this guy. He's so much fun. So I was like, all right, these are the kind of people that he works with. These are gonna be fun people that I would actually want to add to our database, that would have fun at our client events, that would have fun with our team culture. And they've loved coming, us taking care of, his people now that he's left the state. So, and it was like a year agreement, and that ended in like 2019. So yeah, it's been good.
So we have about 4 minutes left, and we don't have a topic so next week is ops coach, the ops coach call, right? And then the following week is 4th of July week, which we won't have a call. So we're looking at a topic for the July 13th.
I had asked David if he would take that date. I never got a confirmation.
He's on vacation, so I can tell you right now, we could shoot for the following week, and I think he'd be good. But that week, he's either still gone or just getting back. And they're short a listing manager. There's no way he's gonna be able to find the time. So let's pencil him in for the following week. I talk to him tomorrow, and I'll just verify it.
Maybe, I know we kind of talked about it now, but do we actually bring in or ask a couple people who have done the agent handoff thing?
Megan, do you know of anybody who's acquired? You do?
Yeah, if the group wants to go there, we could totally bring some people in.
Awesome. And I can chime in too. As Megan said, my team did it, so I can also chime in. Yeah. And I did the reverse, Aslan.
Yeah. And my team never acquired databases. We acquired smaller teams. Similar, but we took on the human capital as well. So we could also talk about that approach. But I've got some DOs who have acquired just the database, like Hannah's example.
Okay. We got like a minute left to get some ahas. So just real quick, we're going to do the golden handoff, 7:13, and then we'll talk to David about reverse bolds, correct, is the topic that we'll be talking about the week after there.
Yeah.
How about you give us a couple ahas? What were some takeaways people had from this call?
I think you keep an eye on people that might be getting out of the business due to the shift, taking a more stable type of job, like a salary, and starting those conversations. Or at least offering and letting them know that, hey, this can be an option for you for an exit strategy. Brilliant idea. Thank you.
One more.
I like Megan's viewpoints or mindset on this is the sweet spot, kind of giving that motivation and having that dialogue with the team, especially as we get that mid-year reset, like here's what we should be thinking, what we should be looking at, and, finding the opportunities, not looking at all this negative press and media that all of our buyers and sellers may be seeing. How do we shift that view for them as well.
And take that to your team. I had our team meeting just right after I talked to Megan yesterday, and I showed them, drew it out for them, and like, these are the time to make the phone calls if you're, buyer and seller. Like, didn't explain it probably as well as her, but it got the point across. So bring that to your team, bring that to your friends, family, everybody. Really good knowledge.
Zach, I dropped our Inspired link in the chat box because the kind of our focus is systems of lead conversion for Inspired happening literally 4 weeks from now. And we've got Anna Kruger, we've got Phone Fairy. So if you are focusing on sort of like Aslan said, like, why did our ISA department fail? Like, what are our systems of lead conversion and how do we really set that up? That's going to be a huge focus for us at Inspired. So a reminder to check that out and come join us. Booked my hotel, so I'm all ready to go.
See you guys. Have a great night.
Bye.
Next week.